Hi guys, this is Coach RJ once again, and I'm with one of the finest coaches here in New York. I want you to meet Coach Leon.
Hello, everyone. As you can see, my partner here, RJ, has introduced me as Coach Leon, and I'm here to help him out and help you guys work on your chess. So I'm more than happy to be here.
All right, so for today, we will both teach you on how a rook and bishop moves. But first, let us do a recap regarding our last lesson, which is what? The chessboard and chess notations. And Coach Leon, can you please start it?
Well, yeah, so Coach RJ mentioned the chessboard, and as you can see, the chessboard is a grill, and there are lines on the chessboard that he mentioned. And one of the lines that he mentions, for example, if you go vertically, this line, well, I'm trying to make lines now, but it's not letting me. So if you go lines up and down the chessboard, let's say the B file, right, going vertically, um, those are considered files, right? Lines that go up and down the chessboard. Okay, so that's considered the B file. Coach, can you please highlight the F file? So as you can see here from this illustration, the files run up and down the chessboard. Okay, so remember, those are files. These lines are highways to get into the enemy territory. Another line that Coach RJ mentioned on the chessboard, right, is horizontal lines. And these lines run from left to right, right? And these are called ranks. So for example, he's highlighting right here the fourth rank. Very important ranks usually when you're playing chess is the seventh rank, right? If you're playing white, you want to occupy the seventh rank usually with rooks. And if you're playing black, you want to occupy the second rank with your rooks, right? They usually call them pigs on the seventh, okay? So we mentioned these two lines on the chessboard. And of course, there's another line that we can mention because one of the pieces that we're going to be discussing today runs on diagonals. So if Coach RJ can just clear the board here from the arrow with the arrows and just put a diagonal from A1 to H8. So this is a major diagonal on the chessboard, right? They're usually called grand diagonals. And then he illustrated here from H1 to A8, right? So these are very important diagonals. We will mention today the pieces that run on these diagonals, right? And they move in that fashion. So these are the lines that you will typically see on a chessboard: vertical, horizontal, and diagonals. So you got files, you got ranks, and you got diagonals. Another important thing on the chessboard, whenever you set up a chessboard in order to play your opponent, right, you always have to make sure that there is a light square on the right-hand side. So a good way to remember that, you can always tell yourself light on the right, or light on the right is right, right? And then you could always remember that. So Coach RJ, can you please clear the chessboard and indicate that if you're the white player, right, you should always have a light square on your right-hand side. So if you're playing white, H1 should always be to your right. And if you're playing black, then A8 should be on your right-hand side. Okay, so always remember that. And then the other thing that Coach RJ mentioned about the chessboard is that each square has a name. And if you think about each square as having a name, like for example, we have a first name and a last name. So on a chessboard, the first name will be a letter, and then it will be followed by the last name, which is a number. So for example, if I tell Coach RJ, can you please highlight F7? Remember the first name being F, right? So please show an arrow showing the F file. That's showing the first name, F, and then the number 7 will be the last name. And then you know that that square that's circled in red is considered F7. Coach RJ, can you please show me B2. So as you can see, Coach RJ found it right away. B being the first name, and then 2 being the last name. So this is a good way to learn coordinates, because later on, you know, when as you start to improve your game and you start to play games, it is extremely important to write down your games, because it's a record of your moves and your game and how you played. And it's always a good idea to review your games in order to improve. And everybody that knows about chess will constantly tell you this. A good way to improve is to always review your own games. So this is an important thing to learn in chess. So Coach RJ, I think this pretty much wraps up what you mentioned from the last video. So today we're going to be talking about the rook and the bishop and how they move and capture. And we'll maybe show you a little exercise to help you out with these two pieces.
Yes, you know what? I always love watching Coach Leon teach. Let me just tell you guys, let me share with you. I'm a chess national master and is trying to achieve an expert level right now. But believe it or not, he mentored me on how to teach kids. So it only means one thing. It's not about your chess level that will make you become a good teacher. It's all about your passion. For me, you will always be the greatest coach or the best coach ever. All right,
Thank,
let's
thank
move
you very
on
much, Coach
to
RJ.
our lesson. Okay, I think I've mentioned that we're going to study about the rook, right? Okay, let me just put the rook here and let me set up positions first. Or wait. Okay, let me explain first on how a rook moves. The rook is one of the pieces that moves in a file or in a rank.
Yes.
If we are going to see the power of the rook, it's very much powerful like a tower that destroys anything that blocks its way. And let's talk about the value of this piece. The rook has 5 points.
So as Coach RJ is mentioning, the rook is worth 5 points or 5 pawns. Later on, when we talk about pawns and you learn the value of the pawns, you can weigh the different pieces and how they, you know, their worth and their value. So the rook is considered a major piece and it's worth 5 points. There's also another
Second most.
piece. There's also another piece that's considered a major piece, which is the queen. And then today you will learn about one of the minor pieces, which is the bishop. So minor pieces are knights and bishops. Major pieces are queens and rooks. So you're learning the first of the major pieces, which is the rooks, and is worth 5 points. Okay, coach, let's carry
Okay,
on.
so as what I mentioned, the rook moves on a file and a rank. So it can move here, it can move here, it can move here, and it can move directly here. It can move here, here, and it can move even directly here. As long as no piece is blocking its way. For example,
So there's one more thing I want to mention, coach.
mhm,
If you look at the rook, right? And if you look at the makeup of the piece, if you were to look at this rook, it and you just kind of block off a little bit of the nice design that the rook has on the top of the piece, it almost looks like a square or a box, right? Or a rectangle. And if you always put yourself in the back of the mind, on the back of your mind, I can't remember how the rook moves, but if you look physically at the makeup of the piece, it reminds you of a rectangle or a box. So as you can see, guys, chess has math involved, shapes, okay? So if you look at it, and if Coach RJ illustrates with arrows, right? Maybe Coach RJ can draw a rectangle, right? or a square, and that's how rooks move. Yeah, right? Along files and ranks. That's another example. Very good. Okay, coach.
Am I a good student now, coach?
Yeah, your squares and your rectangles look great.
Woo-hoo. All right. Okay, now let's move on how the rook captures. Okay, let me set up.
So this is a little puzzle that you can be very creative and do it on your own. And a lot of times with these kind of exercises, coaches, they have different names. They can call it pawn mower. They can call it monster rook. Uh, it's just a simple exercise that coaches use to kind of give their students uh, how to handle a certain chess piece. For this case, we're talking about the rook and we're dealing with the rook. So of course, we can set up something like this on the demo board or on a chessboard and have the students learn how to physically move the rooks around so they can kind of get accustomed to how it moves and how it captures. Also remembering that when you do this exercise, you have to capture the pawns in order. So you can't like skip a square, go into an empty square and then capture a pawn. You must capture all the pawns in order.
All right. So now, when the rook captures, the rook just take over the square of the piece it captures. Thanks. Thanks. Simple as that.
Uh-oh. But
But
coach, if you
now,
look at this, if you show on the illustration, the capturing wasn't 100% correct, but we'll go over it again just to show you.
yep. And that is my next question. So you guys know how the rook captures now, correct? But my question is, what should be the right captures in order for the rook to capture all of the pawns in a certain pattern without missing a capture? I'll give
Exactly.
you 10 seconds. Timer starts now. Time's up. All right. If your choice is rook takes e3, okay, this is another lesson for you when it comes to notations. The rook move stands for letter R. All caps R, then the square e3. Okay, so rook, if your answer is rook takes e3, you're absolutely wrong.
But it's all right, guys. We all make mistakes, and that's the purpose, right? To learn from our mistakes. So it's okay if you made a mistake. All you have to do now is just try your best next time you calculate a little bit better. And calculating is basically going over your moves before you make the move and actually seeing it all play out in your mind before you actually touch the piece and carry on with your move. So
All
that's
right,
a very important thing to do. Of course, it's a little bit of a higher end concept calculation, but later on you will learn that about the game.
coach, can you please demo us what should have been the correct move?
So if we look at rook takes e3, unfortunately, if we capture on e6 and then we capture on a6, there's no way we're going to be able to capture another pawn in order. If we go rook takes e3, then captures g3, then capture g7, and then we capture b7, unfortunately, the pawn on a6 and e6 are going to be left behind. So remember, the whole concept of this is for you to capture each pawn in order. So I believe the best capture here is rook captures b7, our first capture, right? And now we have to look. Rooks, remember, move on straight lines on either vertically or horizontally. They don't move diagonally. So of course, rook captures g7 is the next move. And then of course, after that, we play rook takes g3. And then after that capture, we play rook takes e3. And then from there, we capture e6. And finally, our last pawn on a7. Rook captures a7, and we have captured all the pawns in order. Now, guys, this was an easy illustration on how to do this, but you can become very, very clever, and you can make this very, very interesting and make it confusing where you can put 10 pawns, even though when you play a game of chess, you usually start with 8 pawns, right? You start with 8 and your opponent starts with 8. But you can put a lot of pawns just to kind of like use your imagination on how to capture and use the rook the correct way. So let's see. I think Coach RJ is trying to be, is trying to confuse us and trying to make it a little more complicated. So this will be the last position we'll work on for how rooks move and capture.
Actually,
And
Coach, we're running out of time. So, guys, this will serve as your assignment right now. We're going to check if your answer is right on the next lesson. And
okay.
probably, I mean, we're going to discuss the bishop.
Well, Coach, let's make this interesting. So if any viewers are out there and they're watching this video, right, I believe you can give us some feedback and write back to us. So if you guys are out there watching this video and see this position, this puzzle on learning how to move your rooks and capture with your rooks, you can provide us with the answer. So whoever is the first person, right, to provide us the correct sequence of how to capture all the pawns in order, right, then you can write it on the YouTube channel.
on
I'm
the
not too
comment section.
on the comment in the comment section. Correct.
Right? So, guys, again, don't forget to do your assignments, okay? This
Yep.
is Coach RJ. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, okay?
Okay, guys, it was a pleasure. Happy
Bye.
chess. Bye-bye.
Have fun. Bye. Ah.